Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The steam curled through the quiet bathroom, softening the lights until everything glowed like a dream. She sank deeper into the hot water, eyes closed, her breath slowing as the warmth traced her skin. The sound of dripping echoed gently, then the door creaked open. She thought it was the wind, but when she opened her eyes, he was there. Silent. Still. His gaze met hers through the misted air, and the space between them changed. She didn't move. Maybe she couldn't. His reflection appeared faintly in the fogged mirror, a blurred silhouette watching, unsure if he should stay or leave. Her heartbeat quickened, echoing louder than the water that slid down her shoulders. Every second stretched thin, a thread of tension neither of them knew how to cut. She reached for the towel resting nearby, fingers trembling, but his voice broke the silence before she could speak. "I thought you were asleep," he said, his tone low, uncertain. She didn't answer, only turned her head slightly, the steam swirling between them like a secret neither dared to name. The way he stood there, not intruding, not leaving, made something stir inside her chest, something caught between awareness and confusion. His eyes softened, a quiet pulse she could feel even without words. Her pulse raced. The air was heavy with the scent of warm water and tension. She could almost hear the rhythm of his breathing, could sense the hesitation in his stance, like he wanted to step closer but knew he shouldn't. One drop of water slid down her neck, disappearing beneath the surface. His eyes followed, unspoken emotions caught somewhere between guilt and longing. For a fleeting moment, she wondered what it would mean if he didn't look away. If she didn't, either. The mirror behind him was still fogged, their reflections lost in the haze, as if the world outside this room no longer existed. Then, without another word, he turned as if to leave, but stopped at the door, glancing back just once. That single look lingered longer than any touch. She drew in a slow breath, not sure whether to feel exposed, startled, or something deeper. The sound of the closing door echoed softly, but her heartbeat didn't slow. Something had shifted, quietly but irreversibly. The next morning, the house felt quieter than usual, the kind of silence that isn't empty but full of something left unsaid. She moved through the kitchen slowly, the smell of freshly brewed coffee mixing with the faint scent of lavender from her robe. Every sound, the clinking spoon, the creak of a chair, felt too loud in the stillness. She tried to focus on ordinary things, but her mind kept replaying the look in his eyes from last night. That moment in the steam. That hesitation. That breath between them that had felt like a secret neither should have shared. He entered the kitchen then, his steps hesitant but steady. Their eyes met briefly, just enough to make her chest tighten. He murmured a soft greeting, but it wasn't casual. It carried weight. They were both pretending to be fine, but the memory lingered in the space between them. He looked older in the morning light, not by years, but by the weight of what he was feeling and couldn't say. She tried to smile, but it faltered. "You were up late," she said, her tone light, though her heart wasn't. "Couldn't sleep," he admitted. "You?" "Same," she whispered, stirring her coffee, her hands trembling slightly. There had always been distance between them, the kind born not of dislike, but of boundaries, of the careful silence that families sometimes keep. After his father passed away 2 years ago, he had changed, quieter, more withdrawn. She had tried to hold the home together, but grief has a strange way of weaving walls between people who once shared warmth. What had started as comforting presence slowly became a tension neither expected. He noticed her tired eyes, the way she seemed lost even in the morning light. Something about her vulnerability drew him in, not in the way it should have, but in the way that made him want to protect her, understand her, stay near her. He wanted to speak, to confess that he still heard the sound of her voice in his mind, soft, uncertain, from last night. But instead, he just said, "You should rest more." Her lips parted, almost in a sigh. "I'm fine," she lied, eyes downcast. The spoon in her hand stilled. The silence thickened again, full of things neither dared to acknowledge. When she finally looked up, his gaze was already on her. For a moment, the world felt still again, like last night's steam hadn't fully lifted. His hand brushed against hers when he reached for a mug. It wasn't deliberate, maybe, but the touch lingered a second too long. She pulled back gently, her pulse betraying her calm expression. He turned away, pretending to check his phone, while she fought to steady her breathing. The tension was unbearable, not dangerous, but deeply human. Two souls caught between right and real. And as she watched him walk toward the window, the light catching the edge of his profile, she knew something was shifting again. Quietly. Inevitably. The rain started just after noon, drumming softly against the windows, filling the house with a rhythm that matched her pulse. She stood near the window, arms folded, watching the gray world outside. The reflection of her face blurred against the glass, tired eyes, soft lips, a quiet ache she couldn't name. Behind her, she could feel his presence before he even spoke. He had come closer, his voice low, almost careful. "You didn't eat breakfast." She turned slightly, her tone calm but distant. "Wasn't hungry." His gaze lingered, tracing the sadness she tried to hide. "You've been like this for days," he said softly. Since that night, he stopped himself, realizing too late what he'd admitted. Their eyes locked. Neither looked away. The tension in the air thickened, heavy as the storm outside. Every word unsaid between them pressed closer to the surface. She moved past him to the table, pretending to look for something. "There's nothing to talk about," she whispered, though her voice betrayed her. "Then why can't you look at me?" he asked. That question froze her. She turned, slowly, her breath unsteady. "Because you shouldn't have been there," she said. "You shouldn't have looked at me that way." He took a step closer, his expression torn between guilt and defiance. "And you shouldn't have looked back." The air between them pulsed with emotion, not just attraction, but confusion, longing, restraint. She felt her throat tighten as memories of that brief, charged moment flashed back, the heat, the silence, the way time had stopped. His jaw clenched, his tone soft but trembling. "You think I don't try to forget? Every time I close my eyes, I see you there, like the world disappeared and only you existed." Her heart raced. The honesty in his voice cut deep. She wanted to run, to break the spell, but her feet didn't move. The rain outside grew louder, as if the world itself was listening. When he finally reached out, not to touch, but just to steady himself against the wall, his hand brushed her shoulder by accident. The touch was fleeting but electric. She inhaled sharply, eyes closing for a moment too long. Something dangerous was blooming in the quiet, a feeling neither could deny anymore. That evening, the lights flickered softly through the half-drawn curtains. The rain had stopped, but the silence that followed felt heavier. She sat in the living room, the glow of the lamp painting her face in warm gold. Every shadow, every sound of the old house seemed to breathe with her pulse. He appeared at the doorway again, hesitant, unsure if he should enter. But something in her stillness called him closer. When their eyes met, it wasn't surprise anymore, it was recognition. Whatever they had tried to suppress was there now, unhidden and alive. "You can't keep avoiding me," he said quietly, stepping closer. She turned away, pretending to focus on the book in her lap, though her fingers trembled slightly. "I'm not avoiding you. I'm protecting us." His voice lowered, a raw edge beneath it. "From what?" "From feeling something real." The words hung in the air like static before a storm. She looked up sharply, the breath caught in her throat. "You don't understand, I do," he interrupted, eyes burning with emotion. "More than you think." He stopped only a few steps away. The scent of rain still clung to him, faint and clean, mixing with the warmth of the room. The air between them pulsed with unspoken energy, the kind that feels like gravity pulling two people closer whether they want it or not. She rose from the couch, her heart beat wild. "You should go," she whispered. But he didn't move. "Say it like you mean it." Her lips parted, but no words came. Every reason she had built, every line she had drawn, blurred in that moment. The sound of the ticking clock grew louder. She could feel the heat of his presence now, inches away. The space between them throbbed with everything they'd been holding back: guilt, need, loneliness, all twisting into something neither could name. He took one slow breath, and she felt it, the air shifting, their worlds closing in. Her hand brushed against his when she tried to step aside, but instead of distance, the moment froze them both in place. The lamp flickered once, shadows sweeping across their faces. He leaned in, not a touch, not yet, just close enough for her to feel the tremor of what was about to happen. Then came the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. They both froze, hearts pounding. The world snapped back to reality. The house was too quiet after that night. Every creak of the floorboard felt like a reminder of the moment that almost happened and didn't. She tried to lose herself in the rhythm of ordinary things, washing dishes, folding clothes, pretending nothing had changed. But her heart hadn't forgotten the closeness. The breath that had lingered between them before the headlights outside snapped them back to reality. Now, that same car, the one that saved them from crossing a line, was gone again. He had waited until she was alone to come back. The air in the house shifted the instant he walked in. The look in his eyes told her he wasn't there for conversation. "You've been avoiding me," he said, his voice quiet but tight. "I've been trying to do the right thing," she answered, her tone breaking somewhere between firmness and ache. He stepped closer, eyes glinting with something wounded. "Then tell me what's right. Because every time I see you, I can't think straight." She turned away, but he caught her wrist, not roughly, but with a trembling need to stop her from leaving again. Their eyes met, and in that gaze, the truth cracked open. All the restraint they'd built crumbled in a single breath. "I've tried to forget that night," she whispered. "But every time I close my eyes," he finished for her softly, "you see me." The words landed heavy in the room, and for a long, suspended second, neither of them moved. Then, suddenly, a voice came from the doorway, sharp, cutting through the air like lightning. "What are you doing?" Her heart stopped. She turned to see her sister standing there, the one who'd been away for months, the one who didn't know the layers of grief and loneliness this house had held since her husband's death. The young man's eyes widened. The color drained from her face. "You don't understand," she stammered, stepping forward. "It's not what it looks like," her sister snapped, her voice shaking. "Because it looks exactly like what I was afraid of." The truth spilled out in silence rather than words. Her sister's anger wasn't just jealousy, it was pain. The young man was her son, the stepson she had helped raise, the one who had come to her when the world broke apart. And now, standing between them, everything unraveled: the grief, the guilt, the longing that had twisted into something neither meant to feel. The sister's voice cracked as she whispered, "How could you?" Tears filled her eyes, but no defense came. The air was thick with heartbreak and realization. The forbidden moment had already written its consequence, and now, nothing would be the same. The storm raged through the night, but the louder storm was inside the house. No one had slept. The tension had hardened into silence, thick and unbearable. The air carried the aftertaste of things that could never be taken back. She sat at the kitchen table, hands trembling around a cold cup of tea. The world outside was gray, blurred by rain. Across from her, her sister stood by the window, arms crossed, eyes swollen from crying. Between them was a distance that used to be trust, now fractured, raw, impossible to repair in one night. "You don't have to say anything," her sister said finally, voice brittle. "I saw everything." She looked up slowly, her voice low but steady. "No, you saw a moment, not the years before it, not the grief, not the loneliness that crawled into every corner of this house after he died. You saw a mistake, yes, but not the reason behind it." Her sister's jaw clenched, pain flickering across her face. "And what reason justifies that?" Tears welled up again, but she didn't hide them this time. "I wasn't looking for him," she said. "I was trying to remember what it felt like to be alive." The words fell heavy, breaking what little calm was left. For a long time, there was only the sound of rain and breath, sharp, uneven. Then, from the hallway, he appeared. His expression was pale but determined, his eyes red, as though he hadn't stopped thinking since the confrontation. "This is my fault," he said quietly. "I should have stayed away." Her sister turned to him sharply. "You should have," she said. "But you didn't." He took a step closer, shoulders shaking. "You think I don't know how wrong it was? You think I wanted to hurt anyone? I didn't even understand what was happening until it was too late." The woman at the table closed her eyes, the weight of everything pressing against her chest. "Stop," she whispered, voice breaking. "It doesn't matter who's to blame. What's done is done." Her sister's anger softened just a little, replaced by exhaustion. "So what now?" There was no easy answer. She rose slowly, her voice trembling but certain. "Now we heal. However long it takes. Separately, maybe. But honestly this time." Her sister's eyes filled again, but she nodded, not in forgiveness, but in acceptance. He turned toward the door, raincoat in hand, his eyes meeting hers one last time. There was no touch, no promise, just a quiet understanding. A goodbye made of things they couldn't say. As he stepped out into the storm, she exhaled for the first time in days. The thunder faded into a distant hum. The pain remained, but beneath it, something else began, the fragile start of peace. Weeks passed before anyone spoke again. The air in the house had cleared, but only just, like rain after a storm that had left everything soaked and heavy. She had moved quietly through her days, tending to small things, the garden, the books, the half-finished cup of tea she no longer let grow cold. The silence had become her way of mending what words couldn't. Then one late afternoon, as the sun lowered and the light turned golden, she heard a knock at the door. Slow, hesitant. She opened it, and there he was. Standing on the porch, raincoat in hand again, but this time with calm eyes instead of guilt. For a long moment, they didn't speak. The world felt still, as if it were giving them one last chance to breathe the same air without shame. "I didn't think you'd come back," she said softly. "I didn't think I should," he admitted. "But I couldn't leave things like that. I needed you to know that I'm okay, that I've been trying to move forward." Her lips curved faintly. "I've been trying too." He stepped inside, the familiar scent of rain following him. They sat across from each other, no tension this time, no walls, just the quiet understanding of two people who had been through something that changed them. "I've thought about that night," he said. "Not because of what almost happened, but because it reminded me how fragile we all are. How easily loneliness can turn into something else." She nodded, eyes warm. "And how love can exist even where it shouldn't, not as desire, but as care. As something that heals, not breaks." The words seemed to settle something deep inside them both. She reached out, resting her hand gently over his. This time, the touch wasn't forbidden. It was a goodbye wrapped in gratitude, affection, and understanding. He smiled, a real one. "You taught me more about love than anyone else ever could," he said. "Not the kind that burns, but the kind that forgives." She squeezed his hand gently. "Then maybe we both learned something worth keeping." Outside, the clouds parted, letting sunlight spill through the window. The light brushed across their faces, soft and forgiving. He stood to leave, but before he did, she whispered, "You'll always have a place here in my heart, not my life." He nodded, eyes glistening. "That's enough." As he walked down the path and she watched from the doorway, the golden light followed him. The air felt lighter, freer, not like something ended, but like something had finally found peace. Her final whisper was carried away by the wind. Sometimes love's truest form is letting go. And for the first time in a long while, she smiled fully, gently, beautifully.